You're listening to Eye on the Market Backstory with David O. England. This week's Eye on the Market Backstory from David's column. My goodness, it's a subject that it's hard for me to believe I'm talking about here. Here it is. Cannabis companies up in smoke. The backstory. Okay, David, tell me a little bit about this.
Tom, this is a subject matter that I've been putting off writing about, but I get so many questions. Which companies, how do I invest in the cannabis industry? Okay? So now it's time. Illinois now has made, of course, the medicinal legal and now the recreational legal.
Let me just start this with a little bit of an observation. I
Yes,
even
sir.
talked to you about this yesterday, and that was 30, 40 years ago when you and I were much younger.
Yes.
If you would have told me that we would be talking about cannabis, which we referred to it as weed or anything else back in the day, and all the
Sure.
products that have come out of it,
Sure.
that we would be talking about this, about investing in it or being a part of it, I would have thought you were crazy. So again, why did you pick this? Why are we discussing this in the first place?
Because so many people have jumped into it and invested because they see such a huge demand. And as we speak, Tom, there's 11 states that have recreational cannabis legal and 33 states that have the medicinal.
That's the majority of the United States, especially with making it medicinal.
Yes. And what's going to happen in the next couple of years, there's going to be some huge states that are going to be, population-wise, that's going to put this on the ballot. And so the question is just because there's a lot of money going into this, then the question we're going to answer and address, does that mean that it's going to be profitable for investors to take a look at and to invest their hard-earned money in?
And as we talk about this, I want to mention we're not talking about the ethics.
No.
That's not what we're dealing with. We're not talking about right, wrong, all these things. It's about the business of and about putting your money into things and looking at the analytics, the facts about it, correct?
And yes, correct. And Tom, one of the things I want to put on the table front and center, the ethics of it, that's their thoughts, my listeners, and mine. Whenever you go into a seminar or hear something, you should never hear somebody's personal political beliefs or these kinds of things, or they have their agenda. I'm answering questions. That's what I do. And also my goal here is to separate fact from fiction so that people possibly will be better educated before they put their hard-earned money to work in this sector. And folks, you can save yourself a whole lot of time you don't have to send me questions about the ethics of it. I'm not going to spend any time, so save me time and you time. If you have questions about the particular companies or funds, I'm all over that. So I just want to put that front and center.
Your quote that you put in your article, I want to ask you why you picked this. Don't look for the needle in the haystack, just buy the haystack. John Bogle, correct?
There's about 5 people that I really respect from Wall Street and working on Wall Street, and John Bogle is one of them, the Vanguard company.
Yeah.
He was one that came up with the no-load mutual funds to go up against the load mutual funds from street corner brokers that have a 5 or 6% commission on the mutual funds. And by the way, I'm sure that Mr. Bogle, and we lost him last year, wasn't referring to cannabis stocks when he
Right.
said this, and I want to make sure that's clear. Be interesting to see what he thought about that. But don't buy the companies.
Yeah.
Take a look at the funds. So the company is the needle in the haystack. Just buy the haystack. Look at the funds, and that's what I focus on today. ETFs, funds in the cannabis industry. Well, the companies in those funds I'm going to talk about next week. Today, I'm going to be talking about the individual funds.
The funds, okay.
And in the column that you can read about them, there's a symbol MJ, YOLO, THCX, TOKE. I didn't come up with these names, they did, and CNBS. Those are the major funds. So what I did when it comes to analytics, when we take a look at a sector, now I have an analytics business. That means data mining. I know the time and money involved to go in and search for these. So people can search all 200 or 300 candidates, or we can take a look and see which fund manager and which funds are outperforming the others. We'll let them spend all the money on the research, and then we will research what their decisions are. So that's why I chose 5 of the largest funds by AUM, assets under management. Okay? So We're going to save a whole lot of time. And step 1, analyze the results of the funds to see, are these, there's not a person listening that hasn't had their emails just stacked with cannabis stock. It's time to buy. Don't miss out. So these are going to the moon, yada, yada, yada. Well, in this series, we're going to take a look at, is that really true? And separate, or is that fiction? We're going to look at the truth.
Give me the idea. Which fund has the best return? Let me ask you that one.
Well, in this data, and what I did is I always take a look at 2 different time points.
Okay.
I went back 2017 to date, and the one that had the best return was symbol MJ, and that's the ETF MG Alternative Harvest ETF. Now, it jumped out of the gate in 2017, had some remarkable returns, but in about the middle of last year, about March, it started to tank along with these other funds that they rolled out. So MJ in the long term had the best quick return. In the short term, same signal. MJ had the best return, but Tom, when you take a look at these returns, none of them outperformed just investing in the market. If you really want to get into the details of that, just take a look at it on the online version. The charts are a whole lot clearer there, okay? So MJ, to answer your question, was the best return out of all of them, but still, since 2017, or then I take a look at the second time frame from 2019, the beginning of 2019 to date, as in this week, MJ was still the leader, but Tom, all of these things still had losses of over 30%. So those folks that jumped into these early, they're probably licking their wounds depending on the exact time that they bought it.
We need to look at the facts, right?
Yes.
The facts of what we're seeing. That's what you're showing in this column. At the same time, I have one other overall arching idea behind it all. Cannabis still federally not legal.
Correct.
How do I think about that? What's going through my head? What should I do?
Well, first of all, this industry will not go up in value until it gets to be legal federally. Why? Because the institutions, many of them can't own these things. Those are your pension funds, your exchange-traded funds, your mutual funds, and these kinds of things. As far as the individual stocks go, they can own the ETFs, but it will not go up. And I do believe that one of these days, when it gets to be legal federally, you will see some of these companies that we're going to talk about next week in the S&P 500. They're going to be that big of a player someday, but there's going to be a major shakeout. And that's why I want to put this on the table, so that people won't put their hard-earned money into this during a shakeout.
So we're not finished with this. We have more coming up. We're going to talk about more in our next column that you have coming up. Our part 2.
Yes.
Dealing with this cannabis. So I want to remind you, for more information, or if you want to contact David O. England about his latest column, you can email thetraderseye@gmail.com or find David O. England on Facebook.
And Tom, don't forget, plan your work your plan, and learn to share your harvest.